Growing up, I knew my parents were there for me. We celebrated family events. They were there for me when I was sick or needed help. As me and my sister grew up, we knew we could count on our parents. We were so proud to be their children. Today, we are there for our parents, to share in the celebration of their grandchildren or to be there when they are ill or need assistance. They can count on us. And now our parents look to us to take care of them. Hello, my name is Michael Welsker, and I'll be your host. Welcome. And I am the owner of an elder care agency called Always Best Care Senior Services. We provide non-medical in-home care and free assisted and independent living placement. As often we talk about a lot of different issues that concern the elderly and their families. And if you have any questions about anything we've discussed on this program or in previous programs, please don't hesitate to call or send an email to alwaysthere@westborotv.org, and we'll be happy to respond to your questions either on the air or through the email. Today we're going to be talking about in-home care, about caregivers that agencies provide to take care of the seniors in their home. And I'm happy to introduce Sandy Adams. Sandy is a certified nursing assistant. And welcome here. And just give the people that are watching a little bit of your background.
Well, I first got my first experience from a car accident in my own family. And my mother had her leg amputated and she lost her speech. And my brother was partially paralyzed on one side of his body. And I think, you know, having that experience with growing up in a handicapped family just instilled in me, you know, the humility and my strengths of, you know, the love for caring for people. And I went on from there, you know, taking care of my mother and my brother, learning the different, you know, how to, you know, like with my mother, without her speech, the only way that she was able to communicate was she would mouth, you know, try to mouth words, but you couldn't hear anything. But, you know, learning to read lips, you learn to understand body language better. I think just those things, you know, taking them to the doctors and knowing their stress factors and just being able to adapt to every situation has helped me through wanting to be what I am. And it's been instilled in me, and I find myself, no matter what, I'm always thinking about the other person and, you know, how to care for them. And so after that, I actually, in high school, did a program with Easter seals, and that was with handicapped children. And I actually, you know, helped to tutor in math with those little kids, cerebral palsy and different things like that. And then I just went on from there, decided to go into school to become a CNA. And I went, well, first I actually went to school in Florida to become a dental assistant, and I didn't like that at all. And I just knew my calling was to be with caring with people. And so I did, you know, do my studies in Dodge City, Kansas, and actually medical aid for in Nebraska. And then I continued on here, and the, you know, just a different, you know, continuing on, you know, learning, you know, the safety, the new safety codes, the CPR, all the new, like the new CPR that they have, and just continue, you know, learning to be, you know, a better caregiver.
Now, what brought you to Massachusetts since you did most of your training out in Kansas?
Actually, it was to be closer to my sister. And I went through a divorce, and I came out here to be closer to my sister, and then I started into the different home care agencies to be able to, provide care for people to stay in their homes, which, made them very happy.
Now, did you do any of this work when you were in Kansas before you came out to Massachusetts?
Yes, I did. I actually worked in a nursing assistant home in Kansas that was connected onto the hospital. And I did work there, taking care of elderly patients there. And that's where I learned most of my training, in home, and because they had like the private housing also, and then they had the actual assistant living connected to the hospital. And I learned, doing the bathing and, the different care that you have to do, with the lifting and stuff. And then that's when I went on to Nebraska, and I went back to school for, it's med aid, and actually they don't have that here, but that was being able to give out meds in, controlled situations.
And what was the certification process outside of, can you go into more detail about how you got certified, what was entailed?
Well, actually, it was in a community college in both Dodge City, Kansas, and Nebraska, and it's a year-long program that you go into, and it's taught by nurses, and you have to get certified. You get certified by the state by taking the state test to be able to get your license.
Now, is there reciprocity between Kansas and Massachusetts, or you had to take a whole other exam when you came into Massachusetts?
Well, actually, for the CNA license, there was no extra testing because they were equal. But as far as the medication license, that was something different.
Okay, so just try to explain to the viewers, CNA can provide toiletry, can provide showering, so hands-on type of care. But in addition to that, what other types of help do you give the senior at home?
For, you can help with, oxygen, and you can help with, if they have different, for the urinal. You could do all those, and then if you're under a nurse's, supervision, you could also help with wound care, and just basically a lot if you're under the
nurse's
care of.
So if you're not under the nurse's care, then you can't do the taking care of wounds or any type of medically associated types of task. Is that correct?
Right. If you have to be under the nurse's instruction.
So in addition to doing the care that you are allowed to do without a nurse present, do you do any other things for the senior while you're there? Do you do any things around the house?
Yeah, we basically any needs that they have. As far as, if they're bedridden, changing the sheets and changing, them, if they're not able to get out of bed, we know how to, roll, assist, change sheets. And, I think one of the main things when a CNA goes into a job, or any caregiver goes into a job, is we read the assessment of the client. Also, we're always, one step ahead of looking for, dangerous situations, feeling out the client, getting to know their personality, getting to know their likes and dislikes, and but we do, we'll cook for them, clean for them, do laundry, basically all their needs, and companionship. I mean, that's a big part of it.
Can you go into more detail about the companionship aspect of your job?
Like, you know, if let's say somebody wants to go to a senior center, we take them to the senior center, and you know, either we're with them. It depends on what they want, or like at home, you know, you do board games or photo albums, you know, whatever their hobby might be that they want to do, that you help them.
So you develop,
encourage them.
Right, you develop a relationship with them
right.
outside of the tasks that you have to do. You directly deal with getting to know them, and they're getting to know you. So you're looking forward to being there, and they're looking forward to you being there outside of, gee, I have to, you know, help you shower today. But if you get to have a good relationship with them, they feel more at ease, and so do you. Right,
and they're when you walk through that door, they're smiles. They're happy to see you. They're like, oh shoot, she's here again. So that's what we strive to do, to make them happy, you know.
Have you ever had a case where you got the senior was not happy about you being there, and then you had to build slowly to get them to feel more comfortable with you being there? Because I can tell you that my experience has been that there are a lot of clients that don't want to have the attention, and it's really just the family that pretty much directs the senior that this is what they need because we're not available to take care of you. So have you experienced that type of resistance?
Yes, I have actually. I think what you do is you just go in and slowly, and they'll ignore you for a while, and you'll ask, you know, if you want a little lunch or would you like to go for a walk, you know, and they'll be a little stubborn at first, but they warm up pretty quickly. I mean, as long as when you go in there, you're not pushing yourself onto them, they warm up really quickly because they're not being hateful towards you as a human being. They're just not wanting to release the fact that they need help.
Right.
But I've always found that eventually, you know, they'll realize that, you know, it's time. I do need help, and that the anger towards, you know, the children or whoever is having this done, you know, fades away when they find out how easy it is. Because a lot of them, just having a stranger in their home is pretty horrific.
Right. What's your interaction with the family outside of the client?
Usually, you know, we communicate off to the side, and usually it's a really good communication, and that actually starts building also. Once the newness and the fear on both sides, that, you know, it becomes very warm, a warm, very, you know, loving situation.
Does the family pretty much appoint someone that you should communicate with, or have you come into situations where, you know, you have battling siblings, well, you know, don't listen to what she says, listen to what I say. Have you come across those types of situations?
Yes, I have, and you just have to make sure that, you know, you stay professional about it and never, you know, take sides with one, sides with the other. You just kind of let it flow over. But usually there, you know, becomes, after you get situation, you know, they realize that it has to only be one person, and then it ends up being one person. But you're really communicating to basically all of them that come to visit. But eventually they you know, leave it up to one person to be the go-to person.
Can you think of a case that you've had that it just didn't work out with the client, or it didn't work out with the family?
Actually, I haven't had any, but I've heard of some, and you know, that's you know, what they do is, you know, if they don't really get along with that personality, it's not the fact that they don't like the care the person's giving, I was taking care of a little lady. She was 103 years old.
Wow.
And she was the most wonderful person I've ever met in my life. And there were a couple girls that she just didn't click with them. And it's not because they weren't giving her good care. It's because, she didn't really like their personality, and she couldn't really deal with it.
Right.
But I think everybody, has that situation where there's some people you like and there's some people you don't like.
Right.
And you have to realize, everybody gets set in their ways, and they have a certain way of thinking.
Do you find that most CNAs that you know have take that approach?
As taking care of.
Right.
I definitely have met the most wonderful people, especially in the state of Massachusetts. The most loving, caring CNAs and caregivers I've ever met.
That's great. That's
Yes.
good to know.
Yes. And my mother was actually put into a living assistant in Iowa, and she wasn't treated very well. And it wasn't. I always hope to say that it wasn't a bad thing that somebody was doing to my mother, but some of the things that she told me that happened, that I just think they didn't have enough people to help care for all these patients, and they were being neglected. So I think that was another turning point for me to work at the home care agencies, because I truly believe, them being in their home is, just such a relief for them.
And where else have you taken care of seniors? In assisted living, independent living?
Well, I've done the both, but mostly mine has been in-home private care in their homes. And to me, I just think it just works out. Especially, I had a guy that had dementia really bad, and he, amazingly, he was a scientist, and his wife was there all during the day, but she was to the point where she couldn't deal with it. She had some problems of her own, but just caring for somebody like that, it takes a lot of energy from somebody, but you learn how to do it, and you learn how to work with these people that have such, memory losses, and there's certain things that they do remember. Like, he remembered that he loved music and he was funny. So I would sing to him all the old songs, like back in the 50s and 60s, and then he would sing along with me. And then he always liked, funny jokes, but one of his favorite songs was Popeye the Sailor Man.
Right. Yeah, I remember watching that when I was a kid. I don't even think it's on TV anymore, or it might be on Comedy Channel, or one of those.
But I think, you learn what they like. You observe, you're constantly observing their health, their breathing. You're always alert, but you're always there with companionship and meeting their needs.
Now, do you, I know that caregivers or CNAs, they can work hour shift, like 3 or 4 hours a day, 8 or 9 hours a day, and they also do, like, I guess they call them live-ins.
Right.
Do you do both of those?
Yes, I've done all of them, actually. I've done 12-hour shifts. I've done the live-in, which is actually a really good thing for
the people who are watching. Can you just tell them exactly what a live-in is? Is that where you stay there and you sleep there? Is that correct?
Right. Basically, you're there the whole time with the client, and from morning to night, you're, taking care of their needs, giving them bath or shower, and, the meals, the breakfast, and make sure, that they're reminded about their medicine, and lunch and whatever they like to do during the day, you do that with them, and then you go on, it's dinner, and then if they get a bath or a shower before they go to bed, you help them to get in bed, and then you go to but you're always alert. I mean, it's almost like, a woman having a baby. You learn the noise, and you're just always, there, but you're separate in your own room, but you're always aware.
And they feel comfortable going to sleep at night knowing that there's somebody there.
They feel safe,
right.
protected. So I think it's a real good thing. I had a good time doing that.
Now, we talked before the program that you were involved in a case now that I guess started in the house, and then the client was moved into a hospice. Can you talk more about that?
I recently started a case where the lady was diagnosed with cancer after she had fallen, believe it or not. And I went into her home and was taking care of her in the home. And she was fine with that. She was happy with that, with her movies and, being able to stay at home. And then it progressed into going into hospice. I followed her there, and that's where I am now, taking care of her. And she's a fighter. And what I do when I go in, when I followed her from her house, taking care of her at her house to the hospice, is I basically do everything the same. I mean, I'm there a certain amount of time, but when the other aides that are actually working at the hospice, I actually have hands-on, and I do the same thing. I help, do the bed. I help adjust her in her bed. I constantly, making sure that she's comfortable. I make her dinner for her. I help her with brushing her teeth. I help with, changing her when she needs to be changed. And then she likes her little video. Instead of putting the video on a big TV, she likes her little portable. So, we have the whole set that she likes to watch. And then at bedtime, she watches a certain one every night. And I guess she just, the noise of it helps put her to sleep. So she'll watch certain videos for a certain amount of time, and then she says, I think I'm getting tired. So then we'll put that one on, and I make sure she's comfortable. Before I leave, I make sure that she's got her lifeline beside her, her bell. I make sure she's got her phone and everything. And then I get her drinks, and then I help her out when she has her inhaler. Basically, I do quite a bit, actually.
And what are your hours? Are you there the entire day, or just a portion of the day?
It's like 9 hours.
9 hours per day?
Yeah.
And she gets the other help from the people that work there, the other caregivers, the other nurses.
Right, and the family comes in before me, and they're with her. And her husband is there, and he brings her like a brunch, and she's been eating that, and then having like a lighter dinner at night. But I really don't like to leave until she falls asleep, to make sure that she's, comfortable. And so when she falls asleep, that's when I leave.
Right. Now, she has doctor's appointments. Do you accompany her to those appointments, or is it usually just the family and you stay behind?
Well, actually, I was going to go with her on her recent doctor visit, but her husband said that he had other aides. She actually has a handicapped daughter at home. So one of the aides that works with that young lady went with.
Just getting back to we just mentioned the fact that the family has a handicapped daughter. Do you ever give care, provide care to a person who's not a senior, considered under 65, I suppose?
Oh yes, I have. I had a man that was in his 50s. He was paralyzed from the waist down, and I used a lift with him to lift him to put him in his remote control wheelchair, and I did the same thing. The meals, I did light housekeeping, and helped him bathe and changed his urinal. And I had a lady that had MS that was actually paralyzed from the neck down, and I would have to hand feed her. But she's really amazing. She had a computer and she had the Dragon, and she actually sold Avon.
Really?
By talking, just
And this
talk.
is out of her house?
Yes.
Wow.
And she had we put braces. She had to wear these braces because MS patient, the body is still, all the muscles still function. So her body would, like you yawn, stretch, you're like, oh, it's stretching. Her body would do that, and you'd have to have braces on her legs to keep them from going out of joint. But yeah, she stayed home. I cooked for her. She would type up recipes on the computer, what she wanted for dinner, and I would make those recipes for her. And then I would hand feed her. And then she had a handicap van that I drove her to, like Easter dinners or whatever. It was, she was a very, very wonderful.
You are a very compassionate person. You certainly are. I
think it's.
I admire that. I
Thank
really
you.
do. One last question. Do you at times work at two cases at the same time? Like one in the morning, one in the afternoon,
Yes,
3 days one client, 4 days another client?
Yes, I've done that too.
And how often is that? Is that the norm, or that's usually the exception?
I think sometimes it's the norm. It depends where you are. But sometimes, like my little 103-year-old, I had her for a very long time, and then I had my dementia guy. I had him for a very long time. So when you have a certain amount of hours with somebody, the same person, you're not going to be able to do anybody else. I mean, it was, you were there more than you can handle, I guess.
Well, we're running out of time. You've been tremendous. I really think you've really educated the viewers, and I thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And again, if you have any questions or comments, please send us an email. And thank you for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you on our next program.